Hey everybody, I'm Zach,
And I'm Jesse.
and you're watching In Depth.
On Now You Know.
So you were reading a Vox article this week, and you were kind of
I had some mixed feelings
miffed
about it. Yeah. So basically, the article first lays out that research shows that there is overwhelming support by the public for 100% renewable energy.
okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
But utilities have invested a lot of money in their existing infrastructure, and they don't want to make the switch quickly or at all, really.
Yeah, that makes sense too. Mm-hmm. I kind of picture this as the analogy of the kids in the back of the car. Mm-hmm. You remember when you're in the back of the car and it's been a long drive already, and it's like, when are we gonna get there? I'm so tired of being in the car. And then the parents turn around to the kids and lie to them and say, don't worry, we're almost there. It's just a little bit further. Those are the utility companies, in the front seat, basically telling us a lie. We're not closer.
Right.
It's going to be a long time. They don't want to make the change, and they're just, lying to us. So in the Vox article, Melansky and Partners, which is a research firm, they analyzed existing utility messaging. They interviewed utility executives and environmentalists. They ran a national opinion survey, and they did a couple of 3-hour sit-downs with media-informed customers in Minneapolis and Phoenix. And what did they find out?
Well, to cut to the chase, 100% renewables is a wildly popular goal.
Yeah, as you're seeing right here, basically all the surveys they did showed that everyone they surveyed wants to get to 100% renewables as fast as humanly possible.
Right. Again, as we've said many times before, 100% renewable is a great goal for basically everybody. If you're right-leaning, this is energy independence. If you're left-leaning, this is good for the environment. It's good across the board.
And there's so many jobs in every country now that are supported by renewable jobs. It's not like in the old days where it was like, well, you'd be taking my job from the coal mine. It's like, well, there's more solar jobs than there are coal jobs.
Right. And this includes us, the small energy customers like you and I. This also includes huge energy customers like Apple, Google, Amazon, and even Lego. So, lots and lots of companies are saying we want 100% renewable source of energy. Why? Mostly because it's so wildly popular. Every company's like, what can we do to improve our PR image? And the PR department goes, let's just see what's popular across the board. Oh, renewable energy. That would be a good thing. Now, it's not just about public opinion. Everyone really needs us to go 100% renewable.
Right. Our planet needs it.
The climate change that we're observing in our atmosphere and in our world right now is being caused by the CO2 that's in the atmosphere that we've been putting out for about a century, and we're continuing to put out at record amounts. And also, I just also want to remind people that even if you're like, I don't think that the world is warming up, it's the sun, or it's, Xanthopru, the benevolent alien god that's looking over our planet. Pollution is also a very bad thing.
It certainly is.
Something that we would like to get rid of. If you don't believe me that, coal power plants put out pollution, just look at China. It's smoggy. And a lot of that is cars, but keep in mind,
now, you can call it clean coal all you want.
Right.
It's not clean.
It's disgusting. Now, utilities don't want to strand their assets.
Slow down there. Strand assets?
Right.
What do you mean?
They've built all of this infrastructure. They've built all of these coal plants and natural gas peaker plants, and they don't want to get rid of them because it's all built already, and they can just profit off of this.
Oh, right. And this is one of the problems with capitalism, in my opinion. I love capitalism, but we need conscientious capitalism, which is when you build a peaker plant, let's say, you have a price tag associated with that. You can walk around and be like, I spent $5 billion on this plant. As a person who lives near the plant, I can't walk around and say what harm you're causing me. I have no number to put on that. I can't say how many years less on my life you're going to kill me. I can't say how many millions of dollars you're causing in health damages to me and my family. So your number always trumps my number because I don't have a number.
Right. And you can't point exactly to that plant is putting out so many thousands of tons of CO2 every year, and that is contributing to global climate change, and that is going to have an impact. Here's the dollar figure. Here's the bill, here's the invoice for all the crap you've caused.
Right.
Thanks a lot. Basically, utilities can't let us know that they don't want to switch to renewables quickly.
Okay, so when they get in the boardroom, they're actually saying to each other, we got to keep these peaker plants going as long as possible to get our money back.
Where they're saying, well, in order to continue the profits like we had predicted, 10, 20 years ago, we need to continue business as usual.
Right.
We can't be adding all sorts of solar and wind projects. That wasn't in our budget.
Right.
Through the focus groups, they found that they can't tell people that they're not going to move towards renewables. So in the boardroom, they're saying, we can't do any of this stuff. But if they were to go to you, the customer, and be like, we're not going to do renewable energy. What are you, stupid? That wouldn't make any money. People would be like, excuse me?
Right.
No.
Right.
We want renewables now, and we'll fight for it. So what they've done is through these focus groups, they figured out that they can't say it directly to our faces.
I get that.
So they have to start with a positive message. We're committed to renewables. It's the way of the future.
Oh, that sounds good.
We're going to do renewables.
Yeah, my power company is committed to renewables.
Right. What they're not telling you is that the plans for it are in 30, 40 years, and they're just going to do a base level, whatever.
Right.
But here's what they do that's even worse. First, they start with the positive message.
Okay.
We're committed to renewables, but then they add a bit of fear.
Ooh.
Going to renewables too quickly could lead to price increases, power outages, or even curtailment.
Oh no.
And then you're like, oh no,
I don't want
renewables aren't some kind of silver bullet solution.
No, they're scary for my grid.
They're scary because maybe my price would go up.
And I could lose power.
Now, the focus groups, one of the things that the focus groups found was that a majority of people would still be in favor of 100% renewables, even if it meant a 30% price increase in their electricity.
That's unheard of.
That's insane.
I mean, Americans never want to pay more for anything. That's just built into the Constitution. I think it's Amendment 26 is we will not pay more for anything.
Right. And if we have to pay more,
you're out.
I mean, that's why we started this whole thing, right?
Yeah,
Because we didn't like paying so much for tea.
Walmart.
Yeah.
Wait, so Americans are willing to spend 30% more to get green energy.
51% of people said a 30% increase.
Fine by me.
And they would be okay with it.
Wow. Why don't the utilities just take advantage of that and raise rates and put in solar panels?
I don't know. So what the utilities then say, after they've put that little twinge of fear in you, is that they claim that they're working on a mix of strategies to be clean. Not 100% renewable, but clean.
Oh, I see. So they just added the word in there and it makes you feel good.
Right.
Even though they're still burning coal and
Right.
natural gas and oil.
Yeah. So I guess the important question here is, what does clean mean? If they're going towards this clean thing, what are we talking about? So what they're talking about is natural gas, basically, is the biggest contributor of what they're talking about. They're saying we're going to institute a bunch of different strategies. For the most part, it's just natural gas.
Right.
Now, natural gas can really sound really good.
It's natural.
On paper. Natural.
Yep.
And it's a gas. Gases are just in the air, whatever.
It's invisible.
Now, natural gas is methane. Now, methane is 86 times more potent as a greenhouse gas than CO2.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
it's pretty bad to get into the air. So you might be saying, well, Zach and Jesse, that sounds fine. Burning natural gas sounds fine because the methane is being burnt into the CO2, which is 86 times less potent than the methane. Oh, great. Well, first of all, natural gas is cheap because we're drilling for oil so frequently and fracking and doing all sorts of crazy methods to extract oil from the ground. And this is a byproduct of it. So it's relatively cheap right now, which means that energy companies are saying, that stuff's really cheap.
Right.
The thing that makes it the most unperfect is that no matter how you transport natural gas, it seems like it will always leak.
Yep.
And so while the exhaust from the peaker plant, the power plant, seems to be, just CO2 over here, it looks good, it's really not what you should be looking at. You should be looking at
factoring everything in.
the whole pipeline,
the whole stream,
all of the leaks that are happening along the entire thing. So that methane is going into the air, and it's a very potent greenhouse gas.
Yeah, I mean, we know right here in Massachusetts that 2.7%, and this is what's reported by the utility companies, 2.7% of our natural gas is just leaked into the atmosphere every day.
And those are just from lines that are going to our houses.
Right.
So, I mean, you can imagine a bigger pipe. You could have a bigger leak, and they can say, just a little leak of explodable gas.
It's invisible.
Now, are the utilities right? Should we be going along with their balance sheets as opposed to doing what we consider to be the right thing, what most people consider to be the best thing to do? Now, the energy companies can find studies everywhere to support their cause. A lot of people are pragmatic. They want to say, what can we do that's best in terms of CO2? Because that obviously makes the most sense, and I agree with them. But here's what they do. They say, oh, thank you, energy company. Let me just review your documents here. Oh, I found, I see the CO2 from natural gas plants, not that bad. And again, we're forgetting about the leaks. And so a lot of studies can come out to say, oh, this is good. Natural gas is good
compared to
coal,
right.
Compared to other fossil fuels.
Right. I mean,
this is a great kind of transition. But again, we're ignoring the leaks completely.
Well, and when you compare something to something that's completely awful, anything seems better. So yeah, when you compare something to coal, it's always going to be better.
Right. And so you get quotes like this. This is from Nestor Sepulveda. He is from MIT. He says, every dollar we spend on addressing climate change is also another dollar we can't use to tackle other pressing societal problems, such as eliminating poverty or disease.
Well, that sounds good.
What sounds good about that?
Well, isn't he saying that we should be saving our money to spend on, eliminating poverty and disease?
Well, I mean, he is saying that, but what he's not factoring in is that in the future, there will be more poverty and more disease if climate change is to continue at the rate that we're predicting, which is going to be horrific. It's going to be horrific. And that means far more poverty. I mean, right now, it's sort of penny wise, pound foolish to say, let's not spend too much on climate change right now.
Right, because
you're going to be spending a huge factor more
I see what you're saying.
Every imaginable problem you could possibly think about.
So it seems like things like poverty and disease, they're right in your face right now. It seems like you should be spending the money on them right now.
Right.
But
and
what you're
that's not
saying
to
is,
say that I don't care about poverty or
but
disease.
You're saying climate change is going to cause even worse poverty and disease issues down the road.
Exactly.
We have to tackle that.
People
first.
are going to need to leave their homes. That creates
It's kind of like the dam is about to burst, and we're saying, don't worry about the dam. Let's worry about there's other problems downstream.
Right.
And it's
Little Timmy skinned his knee.
Right.
Let's put a Band-Aid on that.
Right.
And it's like, you're in front of the dam, sir.
Right.
Please, let's move out of the way of this insane, crazy idea. And so this kind of gets back to the utilities themselves, because I think that we all have an unrealistic view of what villains look like. We've all been told what evil looks like in our media. It looks like a devil, a supervillain, a witch, or a psycho killer. Mm-hmm. And sometimes there are evil capitalists, but usually their motivations are portrayed as, being for evil itself. So, yes, they're, doing something bad, and yes, it could be for money, but most of the time it's also just to be like, I'm also evil. It's not like, and we're going to make so much money. In the real world, almost no one intends to do harm, okay? Because we're all pretty rational people.
Right.
And in the situation that you find yourself in, you can be rational and still do a lot of harm. People in these utilities who are making the decisions to not switch to renewable energy as fast as possible, they simply want to protect their way of life and those that they work with. They want to be like, that would be bad for our company if we were to switch to 100% renewables.
And their shareholders.
Right. And they simply don't want to do that harm. Does that make them evil? Well, no, because we're not used to thinking of evil as that way.
Right. I mean, these are capitalists, and their job is to make money for their shareholders, and they're doing a good job of making money for their shareholders, so we should hold them up as, pillars of society.
Right. And if you met them on the street or in a coffee shop or, probably even at a conference or something where you were protesting it, you'd meet someone who sounds pretty reasonable, pretty rational. You're not going to meet someone who's, twisting their mustache and going, I'm going to cause so much climate change. And I think that we kind of have the wrong idea in our head as to what evil looks like, right? These people aren't trying to do evil in sort of an evil way.
No, they're just carrying on what they've always done. And for decades, everyone said, you're doing a great job. You're providing power predictably to the grid.
By this point, I'm so used to people, sometimes they'll just leave a comment on the channel like, oh, so you're saying that all of this fossil fuel stuff that we've been doing for a century was worthless? Do you want to be a caveman? What, you don't like energy? Or how would we even have discovered electricity if it weren't for coal and this? And it's like, look, I'm not saying that, we dug fossil fuels out of the ground and the first guy who was like, oh, wow, coal, I could make a factory out of this, was some kind of like evil doer. However, once we have discovered that by burning this fossil fuel, we are contributing to changing the climate of our planet, which is the only spaceship that we have, I think that it's time to decide, you know what, we need to do the right thing here. It's not about making money since we're dealing with the entire planet.
Right. I've been alive for quite a few years, and one of the first investments that I made when I was a kid was in PG&E, Pacific Gas and Electric. It was had a good dividend. It seemed like a nice, solid investment. And I used to pour through all the quarterly and annual reports, and I started to pick up on something. They didn't like the people that they served. They were a monopoly. There was no competition for their services. A wire from their grid comes to your house, and you buy their power. This was back in the 80s when local utilities had a complete monopoly. To regulate these monopolies, states had departments of public utilities, or DPUs, which would usually review requests by utilities each year and hold hearings where they would listen to ratepayers and then decide on whether electricity rates should go up or go down. But the problem was, with no competition came no incentive for utilities to change. So get cleaner, get more efficient, bury the power lines, etc. So in 1992, the federal government enacted the Energy Policy Act of 1992. This act opened electric grid transmission lines to competition. So starting in 1996 in California, now on your bill, you would pay separate rates for transmission of electricity and the generation of electricity. That sounds great, right? Open market, competition, yay. Not so fast. It wasn't a completely open market. It was a partially deregulated market where 40% of installed capacity, or about 20 gigawatts in California, was sold to independent power producers. And the big three utilities in California, like PG&E, had to buy their power from the newly created day-ahead only market. Along came Enron and other companies that gamed the system. They saw this new market and they're like, we know how to play this game. So to make a long story short, because of how this partially deregulated system was set up, it drove PG&E into bankruptcy, and it gave incentives to spike the price of electricity by taking power plants offline. This regulation of energy prices incentivized suppliers to ration supply instead of expanding production. So rolling blackouts occurred all throughout the 90s. The resulting scarcity created opportunities for market manipulation by energy speculators. Now, during this time, California's population increased 13%. This was during the 90s. But because of this whole deregulation fiasco, California didn't build any new power plants during that time. That's why we got all these rolling blackouts. And in fact, it affected whole governors. They lost their races because the state was running out of power and everyone was upset all the time. So I shared this bit of history to demonstrate that the way our federal and state governments have handled power regulation in the past is pretty horrible. Lawmakers listen to energy lobbyists and the public generally gets screwed. What we need is energy democratization, an open market for energy. Now, large utilities have no incentive to improve their grids. Think about it. If they bury your power lines, will you pay more for them to do that? No. So look around. I bet right outside your window right now, you can see power poles with power lines. Here in New England, we have hundreds and thousands of miles on practically every street running through trees that will, of course, fall on them during windstorms or get taken down in the snow or ice storms, leaving tens of thousands of people without power for days. The utilities say they have plans to bury them, but they don't ever bury them. In fact, when you were born, I went to a lot of meetings in town and heard from the utilities that said, don't worry, we have a 10-year plan, and in 10 years, all of your utilities will be buried in this town.
I'm 24.
And not one of them has been buried practically.
Right.
But what if each building was its own power plant? Solar on the roof, power pack, done. We'd still have a grid, but it would be a series of microgrids, much harder to have a single line that takes out thousands of homes. You know why the utilities say it can't be done?
Because it'd be really expensive or really difficult.
It's because it cuts them out of the business.
Oh.
If it couldn't be done, then why, for instance, is Green Mountain Power up in Vermont doing it right now as we speak, with 1,500 households installing solar and power packs?
So what will we see in the future? Now that almost everyone wants renewable energy and almost every utility company doesn't want to give it to us, but they know that they can't say that they can't give it to us. It's kind of like they don't know that we know they know we know. What you should be prepared to see is a bunch of bright green logos, promotional material with leaves and smiling children, stock photos and B-roll of solar and wind projects. But
I feel better already. I feel like they're doing something.
Right. But basically what you're getting is more natural gas and a lot of excuses.
Damn it, Zach and Jesse, you just tell us all this bad news every week.
So what can you do? First of all, you can educate yourself. You can educate others. How can you do this? You can share videos like these, and we'll do it for you. We can educate. Support elected officials and candidates that get it. Go to some boring meetings.
Yeah, I want to talk about going to boring meetings.
Yeah.
Boring meetings are designed to be boring to keep you from going to them. Like, none of us wake up in the morning going, oh, I got a boring meeting to go to today. Most of those meetings, no one shows up to except the lobbyists and the people in the know. Mm-hmm. They don't want you to go to those meetings. They don't want to hear from you. They want to just move right along with whatever their agenda is. Let me tell you, I've been in government for 20 years. I know that's how it works.
Mm-hmm. Just for our viewers, what kind of government are you in? Are you some kind of...
I'm in a local government. I've run for state government. Didn't make it. Surprise, surprise.
You were also, like 17?
I was 20, yeah.
Okay.
They don't want you to go to these meetings. In fact, you probably don't even know what I'm talking about meetings-wise. You're like, what meeting could I even go to? I'm talking about meetings like with the Department of Public Utilities. In your state, there are meetings, usually in the Capitol, where you can go and listen to and talk and be heard to these groups. But you've probably never been to one because they don't advertise them, and you don't know if you're even invited, and you don't know what to do when you get there. And they seem scary and overwhelming, and I don't know all the lingo, and they're totally boring, exactly, because you don't know the lingo.
Right.
So here's the thing. You don't have to go to those meetings if you don't want to, but join a group.
Right.
There are groups of people already doing this, and they need your help. They need your monetary support. They need your moral support. Go protest, write letters, make phone calls, hold signs, knock on doors. I mean, if this was easy, it would already be done.
There's other things you can do. Obviously, buying an EV.
Huge.
That's one way that you can stick it to, maybe you're not sticking it to your utility company, but you're definitely sticking it to the oil company.
That's right.
That's one less car that is not burning, hundreds of gallons of gasoline every year. Put solar on your roof.
That'll really stick it to your utility company.
And again, unfortunately, your single voice is not strong enough. You cannot, with a couple phone calls, make this change.
No.
It is not enough for you specifically to make this change. You need to group up. You need to find people locally. You need to find, certain legislation that you can attack or push.
And Jesse and I have been talking about this. I mean, we would like to be a clearinghouse for this. We would like to help in this. We don't know exactly how to do that yet. I mean, we have amazing things already on our website, like Be Free, which is where people who want to help Elon employees can advertise their businesses. We have things like our Supercharger Reviews, which is... I think the only website in the world that has video reviews of superchargers and destination chargers.
Right.
We could do something like this. We could have a map of the world where people put pins and they say, like, I want to do this. And, here I am. How can I help? Or maybe someone puts a pin that says, I have this group already. And if you're anywhere in the area, please contact me.
Right. So in the comments down below, let's start coming up with some ideas that, Zach and I can do. Because honestly, we're very fortunate. We have a channel that is growing, and everyone on our channel, every subscriber that we have is amazing.
That's right. And you might already have a group, and you might already know some solutions that we haven't thought of. So please reach out to us and let us know, because sharing this information with a vast number of people who care is super powerful. What the utilities and the other groups want to do is keep us isolated in our own little corners, not talking to each other, thinking, I can't do anything.
Right. Or to think, I called my utility and I told them what I wanted, and they said, okay, cool, yeah, we'll write that down, absolutely, okay, bye, see you later.
Because we've already told you, they've done the focus groups, they know what you want. They don't need to hear of that anymore. They know that you want renewables, so calling them up and telling them that means nothing.
And we know from actual meetings where they all go and meet, they know that they don't take it to heart. They're not saying, oh my gosh, renewable energy. Hey, it makes sense in a bunch of these cases, and everyone loves it.
And it's all because of stranded assets. They have these things they already invested in. They can't think of a way out of it.
Thank you so much for watching this episode of In Depth. We know that it's not, always so fun and exciting.
This is fun and exciting.
It is.
We're going to work together to solve this problem.
Yes.
And there's so many solutions that we do have. I mean, we just mentioned EVs and solar. Those are huge solutions. Those completely change what your family is doing. Instead of polluting with a car, you're now completely not polluting with the car.
Right, especially with the solar. I mean, solar.
Exactly.
It is so awesome. And, another idea. let's just put these utilities out of business.
Exactly.
Just
Become your own utility.
right.
We don't need them anymore. It's an antiquated idea.
Or just make your own big utility.
Well, many
and just-
towns, there are towns in Massachusetts. There's a neighboring town that has their own utility company because they just decided as a town, we will run our own utility company. You can do it.
Right. So thank you so much for watching. Now you know.